Welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. This is episode 19. I'm your host, Vince Edwards. You know me from Sound Image Productions, and I got a couple of Facebook groups I administer called Beyond the Backstage Pass and Death by Lodo. I'm sitting here today with my good friend, Kyle Thomas. Mr. Thomas, how are you, sir?
Not too bad, brother. How about yourself?
Living the dream. Doing what I do. Super good, super good. What have you been doing this week? What's on your mind?
Just busting ass on the S6L right now, getting my events set up, really wrapping my head around making the transition from a Digico mindset to more S6L fashion.
Getting the Avid headspace, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, I most certainly am. I
understand.
also going through snapshots, learning about parent and child relationships. So that's always been great.
What was that last part? Sorry, exactly what are you doing?
So see another head spin.
Yeah, that got me turned around a little bit.
It's more or less just dealing with snapshots within a song for a verse, chorus, bridge kind of setup.
Gotcha.
So getting in the mindset of being more of active mix engineer, get my pre-production set up so my job is easier when I get on site.
You impressed me with your constant push towards continuing education. You know, that's a big thing we love here. We always talk about this a little bit in front of the show, but we've really been bringing them through in the wagon, dropping people in. We've had Winston in today and Chris and actually, we had an interesting day today, didn't we?
Hey, Winston drove 4 hours
Winston's
to come
badass.
down here.
Winston is a badass. The Pointer Sisters guy, he's done everybody. I mean, the list is too long to even go into, but we love this guy. He'll be on the show in, I want to say 5 or 6 weeks. We're booked way out. But Winston's coming on. He'll tell his stories. We love him. And he's been in here all day training.
I also have the podcast on the way. We're setting up a really simple syndication right now to get that on all platforms, hopefully Spotify and everywhere else you guys like to view these things. We'll have it up soon enough. We also just opened up our Instagram account, so if you guys can give us a like and a follow, it's at its infancy, so we'll add more content as we go. But that's kind of what we've gotten going.
Well, that's been in your deal the whole way, and I appreciate it, and you're doing a great job. We seem to have a little bit of action on that in the whole Instagram deal, so, I'm more of a Facebook guy. I'm going to do an impromptu survey later about this.
Please do, yeah.
It's going to happen. But, I like the way that's going, and folks that are into Instagram, I think they'll enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, and the problem that I've found with Instagram, the one thing is like sharing the links. The YouTube links are not necessarily shareable in most settings. So everybody that follows the Instagram account, I go and follow you back. I like your pictures because I want to be involved. I check out what you guys do. Yeah. But I also send out a personal, DM to everybody posting the show. So if you guys aren't on Facebook, you will receive it on Instagram as well.
Very cool. I appreciate what you're doing. Hey, Mikey, bring up the comments on the monitor, brother, if we get any, please. I think it's a good idea to go down that lane. The idea with the podcast I'm super supportive of was strip out some audio content and put in some fill, and it would be a nice thing, I think. A lot of people, not everybody watches this. We have friends that tend to throw it on while they're driving from place to place. And whatever way we can get out to the people and share our show with them, I appreciate it. Good stuff.
Right on, man.
Really appreciate it. We've been very lucky with our guests. We're got a couple people coming up that I'm super excited about. Should we talk about who a guest was in the building today? I wonder if we're allowed to do that.
I don't see any way out of it.
So we came to work today. There's always surprises in this place. I'm hanging with Greg Price, who's going to be our guest next week. That's Ozzy, Black Sabbath. He's a legend, more or less. He's the real deal.
That's a nice guy,
Van Halen. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Rage Against the Machine engineer. And he was with Brad Maddox, of course, of Rush and everybody else. And Mike Bourdin came in. I was the drummer for Ozzy Osbourne.
I was a little surprised.
And why?
Well, it's like I've been coming in every day and trying to figure things out, and it's like, I'm used to the core group of guys. So to see somebody new, especially as legendary as that Joe.
He's a badass. I've been hanging out and dealing with that young man since early '90s with Faith No More. I used to hang out with the drummer he replaced, Lynn Perko, who went on to, this wonderful drummer who went on to play with Sister Dove Happiness. But that's who he replaced. And
Dude, we were
Now
just
he's
talking about it.
full rock star god drummer.
You said you
Mike's
did
badass.
what? Eddie and the Tide up at Prairie Sun.
I
That
did
was
indeed.
Where,
This is '86 or something. We recorded that album.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's '80s, middle '80s, Blur. You know.
well, so what a small world that he did that first their first album.
They did exactly.
Or was it the?
I forget what it was
their
called.
demos?
It was. I think it was their first album. It's Yellow. I don't know. It's hard to remember.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't want to.
I just found out about this. I thought it was so interesting. I'm like, dude, look at the
Prairie Sun has done a lot of stuff for a little house up in Cotati. I mean, it's they've been there through kind of different iterations and different management and ideas and technology, and that they're still going is kind of a testament to what they're doing. And then they got their live sound division. We always like to be friendly with the other vendors out there in the world. Good enough. I'm glad to hear you're working on that stuff. I'm excited because we have an amazing guest today.
Oh, sure do.
It's one of the people that comes in and trains with us, a good friend of us, a friend of Sound Image. But it has a really unique story that's going to take some parsing out to get through it, because this person is a musician, is a very talented A1, amazing audio engineer, but also, she was in a founding member of the seminal band Four Non Blondes, and she also has played with Funkadelic and works for George Clinton and all of his iterations as their engineer, and is a genuine badass, and we really are happy to have her here. We got Miss Shaunna Hall. How are you, Shaunna?
I'm great.
It's really great to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Now, you've been doing anything, you look wonderful. I get to see you every so often because you come in for training, and you brought in Sue Kearney, which was lovely to have her in, and friends. I'm interested in knowing what you've been doing for the last, 5 months? Since we've been doing all this. What's your secret? How are you making this all make sense?
Being an artist at heart, we're kind of introverts.
That's right.
So I think I'm taking this maybe a little easier than some in terms of,
Good for you.
the social distancing part. But I am a workaholic by nature, so I've been keeping pretty busy with a variety of things. I help my mom, who's a music therapist, get her music therapy practice onto Zoom, and her training courses, and the different things she has to do with her students that are international students as well as local students. All that transferred onto using Zoom with high quality music. That was the trick.
Just steal from the non-copyrighted stuff off YouTube?
No.
Well, you
just getting
make
it
a lot
to
of it.
sound good was the issue. Since they're private sessions, there's no performance rights issues. But that's a good point, though. That's
The only way to fly, if you ask
I
me.
think people are getting a crash course in performance rights, copyright law right now. It's interesting to watch.
It's a thing that you want to get right, because if you
course.
broadcast and you don't have rights, they
Cut
will
you off.
get you, and they will shut you down.
They will,
And so it's very important to be careful about that.
I own a couple publishing companies and was fortunate enough to be schooled by a talented songwriter, Bonnie Hayes, publishing.
Wow.
And that was
no shit.
invaluable. I mean,
Well, she's
seriously.
tooled around with a couple legends, because let's get to that. Let's talk about it. I want to, of course, we're roadies. But most roadies are musicians too,
Yeah.
or at least trying to be, or tried to be. I want to talk about your time with Linda Perry and you starting the band, being a founding member of Four Non Blondes. That was that was the early '90s, I believe.
Late 80s.
Late '80s. Amazing band. Really kind of took a minute to take a hold, but you guys came out of the chute pretty fully realized. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, that band, Four Non Blondes, was born out of another band that had 3 out of 4 of us in it. It was called the Lesbian Snake Charmers, and it had me, Krista Hillhouse on bass, and Wanda Day on drums. And we left that band over, kind of a dumb reason, but it was a good reason. We decided to stick together, and we were, sure we wanted to play music. And previously, Krista and I had played in a band together, and I was the vocalist because I'm a writer, but I never really felt comfortable as a front person. So I was like, no, let's hold out and find somebody that can really play that part. And eventually, Linda became that person, and we really. The interesting thing about that band was everybody was really different, but we were very focused in the same direction, and we had a good chemistry musically.
Critically important.
So and good writing, like between me and Linda and the rest of the band contributing, we had a lot of great material.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing. I know what was it, I believe 92, you guys won the Whammy, which is a Bay Area award. It's basically the Grammy for the Bay Areas for the best rock band. Best rock album, what was it?
We won a bunch of awards, but when I was in the band, we won the coveted Whammy,
You got
which
the Whammy.
was the local awards that were sort of like the anti-Bammies.
It's a Grammy,
And-
just
It's a Whammy because we had the
W.
SF Weekly magazine sponsored it, so it was called the Whammies
Yeah.
rather than the Bammies or the Grammys. And we won Best New Rock Band or something like that with the Whammies. Then I left the band before the Bammy Award, so I wasn't there. But yeah, I think it was for Best New Rock Band or something like that.
Were you involved when they got signed with Interscope?
Yes, I was.
So you have been through the get signed on a big label
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, I
little
went through the
carousel
process.
That can be.
And at a certain point, I just wasn't really for me.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Well, I guess that leads me
That's
to
the
the question.
best way to put
No,
that.
I've been involved with that negotiation, that A&R to rock band to big record, Atco, Atlantic Records, so on, and that is wow.
Do
That
you
is
feel
quite
like
a
that,
process.
Do you feel like that made you slightly jaded in this industry? Because I'm all out of all seriousness. I came from a record label myself. I'm not nearly as well versed of a musician, nor do I have as big of a repertoire as yourself. But I felt like getting involved in that side of it was so soul crushing to a certain extent.
It's rough.
Well, I think, it didn't deter me from making music because I was born to make music. I didn't become a musician to make records, you know what I mean? It was something I just was compelled to do.
Sure.
And started at 3 years old playing music. So for me, it didn't completely get me jaded, but it gave me a clear distinction between making music and making records for the record industry. Like you don't have to participate in the record industry to be a successfal artist, and you don't have to participate in the record industry to have your art subsidized. There's other avenues, and so that was like a discovery I kind of made because as a young person and being a musician and being an American, quite frankly, they measure you by this type of success. If you're a musician that has a weekly gig, but you're not on MTV, you're not seen as a successful musician. So we are kind of like we're fooled into thinking that's the right direction to go in if you're a talented musician or you feel like you want to express yourself. And we were really good at it, so it happened really fast. But once I got there, it was like a real empty victory for me. I remember just not being that, like when we finally got the record deal and after we'd gone through all the whining and the dining and all the kind of glamorous parts of it, I was just kind of like, I just don't quite feel like I got what I wanted or expected.
What killed me was the whole idea of learning about payola scandals and those kind of things, and then realizing what a marketing package was.
Yeah.
And what 10 grand really got you on KMEO and those kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh wow, this is all pay to play.
Oh yeah.
How soul crushing is it really when you're like, it doesn't matter how good my music is.
Right, you have to be plugged into that machine, and that's why and that's exactly right. That's what when people ask me for advice, first question I ask them is, do you want to make music? Do you want to get famous? Do you want to get rich? Like, what is your goal? Because there's if you want this thing, if you want to be famous, you're going to have to plug into a machine that can make you famous, and that takes a bank basically, which is what I think a label is like a bank that supplies the financing to produce and promote a top 10 hit record, which is what the Four Non Blondes deal was all about. I mean, we at least had a smart enough manager to get us a deal where those budgets were built into the contract so that, they couldn't kind of puss out on us at the last minute and not, promote the record the way it deserved to be promoted, the way it was visualized from the beginning, because that happens a lot. But you have to have that machine behind you if you want to be famous on that kind of a global level.
Well, let's go from Four Non Blondes to playing in the different George Clinton bands. Did the tech thing happen to you before you played in his band, before you started mixing him? What was the time?
Yeah, well, I got interested in producing music and engineering because of my experience recording with the Four Non Blondes and realizing that I didn't really have a vocabulary or enough experience in studio engineering to really get what I wanted out of the recording session or understand what was really happening, and therefore I was kind of taken advantage of. I was gaslighted a lot. For instance, I was told that I couldn't have my own monitor mix because it was too expensive, which is like all it takes is a channel and an amp.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Or having the playback in my head coming off of the wrong, not the wrong head of the 2-inch tape machine. So everything I played sounded like it was out of tune. It was made to look me.
What is a repro head, really? I mean, come on.
Good question. I mean, most people don't ever use it unless they're, calibrating or something. But anyway, so I decided to learn. It was something I needed to know, just like knowing the publishing end of the business. I needed to understand the recording end of the business as well. And so, I luckily had a bunch of money and time and bought into the Pro Tools thing. I had a little 4-track and taught myself all this stuff. And I wanted to become an intern in a recording studio. And that's where I met George, was at this studio called Off Planet. And I ended up engineering some sessions for him because the engineer didn't show up. And my relationship with him started out in the studio, and then eventually we wrote some stuff together, and then I went on tour with his band as just kind of nobody wanted to go to Fiji for Y2K, so I got to do that part of it. And eventually I ended up playing in his band because I ran into him in Europe. I went to go visit him at a show, and a member of their crew had to leave the tour. So I just kind of stepped in as a
We should mention you're a guitar player.
Yeah, I'm a guitar player.
Yeah.
And so I stepped in to just sort of be whatever they needed me to be. If the bass rig broke or if something happened on stage, I'd try to fix it. I had a M-Box and a laptop, which was brand new at that time, so we could record after the shows in the hotel rooms. And he had me just join the it's like running away with the circus, literally. Like, get on the bus, okay, I happen to have my suitcase with me, all right. So that's how I ended up working with George. And in the middle of it, and I have him to thank for my live sound education, because he put me in the monitor position one day.
Which band?
P-Funk, George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic.
That you just got thrown into the fire for
just completely
monitor?
Without ever having done live sound in my entire life, other than rehearsal room.
That is throwing somebody into the fire.
And I just was really too naive to really know how crazy that was to do.
It's a big deal.
Because there are 12 mixes, the stage is 110 dB.
Yeah.
There's at least 36 open mics, 6 guitar stacks, like 2 bass rigs. Just insane. Horn section, singers, background singers, people running around, just passing the mic around like it's a relay race or something, and I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah,
what's going on? And so I had to learn on the job how to do that.
Opinion. But that's that happened to me in a 4-piece.
That's when I became a real live sound engineer.
It's
Full definition of trial by fire.
Oh my
I did that for about 2 years, and then I just was like, okay, I can't. I'm starting to drink. Like, this is bad. I gotta, I give up, Uncle.
That would drive you to drink.
And then from there, I
that
just
band in particular, yes, handful.
And then from there, I joined the band as a full-time guitar player, because I'd always played a little guitar. And in fact, it was really funny at the end of the night when I was monitoring, mixing. I'd turn to the house guy and be like, okay, I'm gonna go on stage now, so just hold it down and keep your eye on George. And he'd be like, what do you mean? And then just walk out there and pick up a guitar and start playing. It was always the end of the show. And so I'd spend the last 30 minutes of the show on stage. Eventually, though, I became a full-time guitarist in the band. And kept that position for about 10 years, or about 6 years.
And then did you eventually, if I understand it right, kind of go out front and be front of house and kind of step away from the playing in the band and pretty much take over the front of house chores?
No.
What was the, give me the connective tissue.
I have never done front of house for P-Funk.
You've always been monitors.
Always did monitors for him, yeah.
And you're still on the payroll, right? I mean, if he was to go out, you'd go out?
No. I had a bad head injury, so
That's
I
bad
can't.
information.
I can't tour. I can't. I mean, once you're in the mob,
Yeah.
which is the funk mob, is the family inclusive. You're always in the funk mob. So I'm still listed. Like, George gave me a shout out for my birthday a couple weeks ago. It says guitarist, P-Funk guitarist Shaunna Hall. Although I haven't toured with him in going on 8 years now. I've sat in from time to time here and there, but I don't actively work on the road with him. Although that's not to say I never will. I mean, I might someday do that again, either as an engineer or a musician. But we're still really close family. But I didn't ever do front of house for him. I've done front of house for like IATSE things, but never for P-Funk.
Don't jump ahead. I want to talk IATSE with you because we're fans. We're all fans of the IATSE union, of course. I want to talk to you about touring versus corporate versus theater. Do you have a preference?
Right now, I really like corporate.
Is it the money that makes you say that?
Well,
just the kind of
money,
cool, casual, easy?
In San Francisco, well, I don't know if I should say this, but there are bigger budgets in corporate, so yeah. There's definitely more money on per show.
That's fact.
I like that there's big budget, so you have really cutting edge gear to play around with. So you get to learn how to use new technology as it comes out, and I find it just a little bit more civilized, for lack of a better word. Like I did so much stuff with rock and roll.
Isn't it a very interesting choice, civilized? Yeah.
I just prefer the sort of cut and dry, like we're here to do this job, like, and I think that the level, like the shows I've been doing, like Dreamforce or some of the larger
That's a big show.
shows, where I'm like, miking up Benioff and the VIPs and stuff. Like I work with some really amazing people that are very smart, and it's I feel like I'm part of a team, and it just suits me. I know that we're gonna do a good job, and I take that really seriously, and I like, it's satisfying to me when I can deliver that, and I know my team is gonna back that ethic up.
And largely when you do corporate, we just mentioned IATSE, and you were with Local 16, I think.
Yeah.
Great house, great shop.
Best in the country.
One of the early ones in the game, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But speaking of which, Malcolm Gotchberg chimed in right before this show and said hello.
Okay.
Well, I think
What's up, Local 16?
That's right. Shout it out.
Shout it out.
What do you think the benefit being in a local versus in the IATSE family versus, say, just being a standalone freelancer? What's the benefit?
Well, for me, the benefits are the benefits.
The bennies.
Literally.
Yeah, actual bennies.
And, as I grew older, that sort of like adult, grown up sort of mind frame just, made, you start thinking about things like that. So, like I mentioned earlier, I had a pretty bad head injury, and so I had to stop touring. And when I had to reassess, like, what am I going to do, for income if I can't play guitar and tour? So I'd already been, doing very, very few, but usually a few times a year shows through IATSE 16 as an overhire, and I like doing the production side of it. I mean, it was really eye-opening, I'll be honest, because all those years as I was a musician, I really took for granted that someone had to build the stage and someone had to rig the lights, and those things are always there when I walk in for my sound check. And I'll never forget walking into the Civic on my first 16 job and just kind of like having this aha moment of, wow, like this room is completely empty. Like there's nothing in here. It just gets built and then it gets taken away. But anyway, so I decided to check it out. And fortunately, it worked out for me. And I think, just having the pension and the health and welfare and having, a job that allows you to stay home and tend to your family or your health or your house plant, whatever it is that you can't do when you're touring, appealed to me at that stage in my life.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. And starting out, your first room you said was the Bill Graham Civic?
Gosh, I think the first thing I did for those guys was an Oracle show at AT&T Park.
That was
And-
probably with us.
Probably, yeah, and a lot of the bigger park shows. I remember vividly doing the Wall tour,
Oh, really fun.
the one in, I guess it would have been, I don't know, 2006 or so.
Was that with Roger Waters or
Yeah.
David Gilmour's version?
It was the Waters version.
Yeah, that's the kind of real deal one. Super fun.
Yeah.
When you were traveling and touring, do you have a favorite spot you like to go? Favorite house?
Love the Paradiso in Amsterdam.
Amazing.
Always great. Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Like
great place.
the
for a
most fun I've
festival.
probably ever had as an adult was hanging out there for a couple days before the show. And
Weather can be a little
oh
iffy.
my God, yeah, I've
Yeah.
sadly
But great
only
place
been
for-
once, but the crew for our stage actually set me up a tent in the crew camping area, so I flew in a couple days early and hung out with that stage crew.
That's pretty cool.
They were super cool. Those
Oh, yeah.
guys were
And
the
they know their
best.
shit out there.
They were very hospitable.
Yeah, very cool.
They were really cool.
Do you have a favorite show, favorite tour?
Favorite tour, favorite show. Well, I have a favorite moment, and I guess it was kind of dovetailing the show, but it was during the Obama inauguration in Washington, D.C. And we went there. We were supposed to do this show, Dionne Warwick's Legends show, and it was at a hotel. We pull in there. It's in the middle of, as everyone remembers, like the coldest day on Earth ever, and
was
snowing
a
like
day.
crazy, right? And we pull into this hotel, and they ended up renting we got the presidential suite, and a few of us and George and his family ended up in this presidential suite. And so we're all excited, right? And we're watching the inauguration on TV. Sly Stone's in the room. Like, it was just this amazing
Talk about
moment.
legend. That's
One of our roadies' sister lived in town. She cooked this huge breakfast for everybody. It was just this total like family moment. And while we're watching the inauguration, the phone rings and someone answers it, and it's got the funny look on her face, And we're like, wonder what that was. So show ends. The inauguration's over. And I'm gonna take off. I want to go down to the mall and just kind of check shit out. And we're supposed to do a show that night. And as I'm getting ready to leave, I get this knock on my door. Hey, we're gonna have to check out here at 5 o'clock. The show's canceled, and they're kicking everybody out of the hotel. And I was like, what? And so apparently that whole show, something went wrong with the money, I guess. The promoter didn't have the money, and so they canceled the whole thing. But by the end of the day, we were rescheduled to take Slash's place at a show that was called the Red, White, and Blue Heroes Ball, and it was a military-focused show.
And really, and which band was going in? P-Funk?
P-Funk, Parliament Funkadelic.
To a military focus?
To a military-focused
Red, white, and blue ball.
ball.
There's like 12 balls that happened that night.
Yeah,
and
what
this
kind of
was-
balls are we talking about?
This
No,
was
they're
crack
big
balls
to-dos, and
or-
the
Inauguration
president,
balls.
The guy has to go to each ball
Yeah.
and show up and do at least one dance. It's kind of like it's a thing. It's a real deal
Yeah.
thing.
But
But I'm interested in P-Funk in the military.
Yeah,
I'm trying
it was
to
at the
put this together in my
iconic
head.
Warner Theater, and
place.
yeah, really cool place.
Yeah.
And this wasn't one of the official balls, so the president wasn't going to show up at it, but it was still on the official list of things, right? And very well attended. Well, during the P-Funk show, there are some mythological P-Funk characters that show up in the songs and on the album cover art and all this stuff, and the fans know it. And the characters, sometimes we'll do a little bit of drama on the stage that draws from these stories. One of them is Sir Nose, devoid of funk, who's this guy that's too cool to dance until he gets enlightened. He gets hit with the bop gun, and George makes him dance, and then he's cool and he can dance.
Then he gets the funk.
So, but when he comes out on stage, he holds up this sign that says "Fuck George," and everybody in the audience immediately thinks that he's talking about George Bush, the outgoing president.
No.
And because they're not familiar with P-Funk, like you said, like we're at this mismatched audience band thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, probably I'd say at least a third of that audience got up and walked out.
Wow.
Because of this misunderstanding. And it even made it into these like right-wing blogs and websites that George disrespected, the George Bush. And he's just like, fuck George Bush. And I literally like went online and I was like, no, you have to understand. Like I found pictures of that sign being held up like, 20 years ago,
right,
showing like this is something we do every night.
It's a bit, yeah.
That was some crazy, that was a crazy day and night, I must admit.
Well, it sounds fun though. I enjoyed the chaos once in a while. It could be very fun.
And most of the show went great, and most of that audience loved it, and it was an awesome experience.
Borderline impossible not to enjoy a
And just
George Clinton show.
And just being down in D.C. watching the inauguration, and I saw them walking. I ran out and witnessed the parade and saw them waving. And
it was a very special day for our country.
It was very special, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
For me.
Good stuff. I mentioned earlier when you were coming on the show that you've done a lot of training here, and I know you really appreciate and kind of respect the idea of continued training.
Yes.
Thoughts on continued training? What's the value of it to you? Why should you, or do you think we should recommend it to our brothers and sisters in the audience?
Well, lots of, I can't think of a reason not to train, really.
Right.
For me, it served me in so many ways. I mean, when I was just starting out as a songwriter, I learned how to use a Porta Studio and a drum machine. And then from that, knowledge, I built onto learning a console and programming MIDI stuff. And from that, which enabled me to work with George Clinton, right? And then from there, I learned live sound, which enabled me to work with IATSE. And so, education is going to facilitate work, for one thing, but also, like, the mantra, work smart, not hard, is steeped in technology and education. I'd still be pushing boxes if I didn't commit to learning Dante and getting all my certs in Dante, learning RF coordination, learning MIDI programming and understanding SMPTE and all this stuff. So
there's nothing I've thrown at you so far you can't do.
Yeah, I'll tell you,
get on top of it.
Out of all the people that have come in, you've definitely picked up the SXL the most, not only on the time frame that you've given yourself, the amount of time that you spent on that desk, but you truly grasp on some of the concepts that other people are trying to figure out or maybe struggling a little bit with. And it's interesting to talk to you about using your implementation with Ableton and that, with your recordings and doing the live shows, but also the implementation of Max MSP.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a lot of people in our industry implementing that right now,
Well, how do you implement it in your show?
Well, I do like live looping and playing with tracks, and then I added a visual element to it, and I use Ableton Live, which I've learned on my own, but also through some training I did with Laura Escadé and her Transmute accelerator. And
she trained the person that trained me in Ableton team.
Yeah, no, she was the first certified trainer in the United States from Ableton, and she was Kanye's right arm person for 7 years. I don't think he's toured since she left his group, doing all the vocal processing using Ableton. But she runs a company that programs and designs shows, but also trains playback engineers. So this playback, whatever you want to call it, engineering, you can use it to run shows or you can use it as an artist. And so I use it as both. But as with artistry, I discovered this really cool Max for Live plugin called Visible. And it's really cool because it lets you treat visuals, be it a JPEG picture or a movie clip, just like you would use audio clips in it. So you can have a clip just run from beginning to end, or you can have a little clip that just loops around, or you could, trigger a clip or trigger a photo. And you can create these, they're almost like samplers for photos or movies. And so you can drop pictures into the sampler, have a MIDI controller, trigger it with a MIDI controller, or you can automate it so that the music triggers that stuff. And then furthermore, the visible stuff is really cool because it has these audio-driven plugins that use audio to cause the visual to change, in different ways, like different effects or different
little
shapes.
filter you put over it.
Yeah, and so I created this program where I had a EQ filter on 3 different returns. For one's filtering just the lows, just the mids, just the highs, and then having a visible effect on each of those returns. So when the music that's going through, like whatever I'm playing, the bass is gonna make the visuals do one thing, the guitars are gonna make the visuals do another thing, and in concert, it gets really super psychedelic and really cool. So, but my goal though was to make something that reacted in real time, so that if I were to, like, for instance, play a part that had a delay on it, then maybe the visual would also have some kind of weird delay or a strobe or something on it, or a distortion would cause it to get really dark or something, or so the visual and the sound are simultaneously like a synesthesia type of thing. They're making one motion, one expression from one MIDI controller that is controlling both those things simultaneously. So if I use a wah-wah pedal, it's gonna wah-wah the wah-wah-wah, but it's also gonna make the visual do some weird filtery thing too.
Cool.
So yeah, that's the gist of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. This is a silly question, but I became curious about this last night as we were building the Instagram thing, which I don't have a relationship with. I'm a Facebook guy, but I'm going to come over to you. Informal survey. Social media, Twitter, which I don't understand at all, Instagram or Facebook, and why? Which one? Yeah, you know.
Do you tweet people?
Are you a tweeter?
I used to, what's the past tense of tweet? Don't say it.
Don't say it. Yeah, I almost did too, and not in a bad way.
Stop
No, my bad.
That was my inner child coming out there. Well, I have all 3 accounts. My Instagram has 1 post. My Twitter has maybe a dozen posts, and Facebook is like, I still use it daily. So I guess just by default, I'm a Facebook person, but I must say that I think I like the Instagram platform, especially for musicians and artists. I think that it's it's a concise, short, way to present ideas and share things that you're doing.
Tends to be more of a visual platform.
Yeah, or even visual or music, because you can post videos or clips.
Gotcha.
And it's it's not political. Like Twitter's like it's like next door on steroids and
Yeah, it seems like it's
bad drugs.
What happened to MySpace?
Oh boy, what?
I feel like life was simpler then, where I could
Back
just
in the
like a
days
bunch
of the
of bands.
MySpace.
I still have a
They'd
MySpace
put me on their
page.
top 10, and I'd put my influences, and that was it.
You were
People
done,
knew
it
what
was
you were
good.
about.
It was a simpler time.
There's no algorithm.
Do you remember when you first encountered MySpace? What was my thought was, oh my God, this is a marketer's dream come true. People are volunteering all their.
Well, we were in a punk band from New Hampshire. There isn't too much networking you do away from maybe talking to some cows. So it was like, cool, these guys are badass. They're from California. Let's put them up there as our little influence. It's like our only way to really network outside of our small circle.
That's a beautiful. Wasn't that? That's a great thing.
Oh, sure was.
That's what I think the point of it was, the connectivity, right? So, but yeah.
Well, I think that's the point
they're
of
all evil,
of
though.
all the formats, but they all have a little bit of ugly kind of attached to them.
I was just about to say,
treachery.
the platforms are, there has to be responsibility with freedoms, and so I think that stuff still has a little bit of working out to be done to make sure
other
that
countries have worked. I think you're talking about privacy rights and so on. And I think other
Not just
countries
that,
in
but
the EU
just-
has certainly worked that out.
just the way that people can just put whatever the hell they want up there unchecked is really, I think, of a greater concern, you know.
I think it's fascinating creating the Beyond the Backstage Pass account, and I like everybody's photos, and I get my personal account blocked because I like too many photos. It's like, isn't this the purpose of this?
There seems to be a couple things going on there. So, for example, you saw, and I'm sure you saw where in Facebook, Mr. Zuckerberg, one of the founders, talked about that he didn't want to impinge on politicians to be correct and factual because that was messing with free speech. On the other hand, I put up a picture of Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris and I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and what looked like was a selfie, and it said something to the effect of "You'll never be as cool as Bruce Lee and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Chuck Norris taking a selfie," and they hit me for factually being incorrect. And
Get out of here.
I swear to fucking Christ.
Oh my God.
And I swear it was within a day or two, and I'm kind of prolific on Facebook, but it was within a day or two of me hearing this other thing about that, you know, it's okay to lie blatantly and freely if you're a politician, but I'm apparently not to be able to put up it was amazing. It was amazing. So that one's got me a little over a barrel, not sure what to land on it.
I think you have good reason to be questioning, and you know, I produced a record for a guy named Roger McNamee, and he is the front guy in Moon Alice now.
Oh, sure.
Back then the band was called the Flying Mother Brothers, and in fact the primary project was when he did it was a fundraiser for Al Gore's presidential campaign, and I produced it, and then he hired me to do 2 records after that. But he was Zuckerberg's mentor.
He's the rather wealthy fellow, the person you're talking about.
That's an
understatement. Yeah.
I mean,
I think he's a billionaire.
He's more than that. I mean, he's
really
a really amazing human being, and he uses his superpowers for good. Anyway, he wrote a book called Zucked, and it really gives insight into that whole situation, and because he helped build it and was, you know, instrumental in making it into the giant thing that it is, he felt some responsibility when he couldn't really get Mark Zuckerberg to sort of what he would call do the right thing. He felt
Mark's a
compelled
robot,
that he had
clearly.
to right.
Let's just get it out there. Mark's a robot.
Android with a really bad haircut.
He talks about data points. No one else understands it. He's a robot. You know?
Well,
He's a unique human being.
I think there might be more than one. But anyway, yeah, so that book, Zucked, is a good insight into that whole thing and why it's so scary.
It's got a weird addictive quality. That's why I'm kind of handed off the Instagram thing. I like to have kind of hands-on with my show here, but the last thing I need with my little Facebook habit is to be on Instagram more than I need to be, so...
You don't
This is
need
where
a
you
new
made the
habit,
mistake.
This is right.
I'm gonna start posting so many rude photos of you when you're not paying attention. Like, boom, I'm gonna kick in the door to the bathroom.
And you want to be real careful. Plus, I've been known to protect my rights.
You might be right.
But just think before you act. That's
He's
all
like,
I'm
this is
saying.
my trademark.
I have a little bit of a
There's
history
Vinny going to the bathroom and me kicking in the door. Like,
You're gonna get.
you
cut,
wanted me to
I'll tell you
control the
what.
Instagram, big dog.
You could get away with that for a second, but the wound's gonna take a while to heal. I tell you what, behave.
That's a trademark.
Listen, we love having you on. I'm curious. You know, you've been doing this for a minute, and you've been amidst all the craziness lately, and we got some craziness to go. I feel like next 100 days is gonna be a little weird. There's some strange stuff in the mail and the news about mail and other things. We won't get into it. That's not what we do in this show. But talk to me about what you think the future holds. I mean, I know you want to get out there. You want to mix. You want to do what you do. You've been training your ass off. You should, countless hours in here. What do you think this is gonna happen? What's the timeline?
The timeline is that's to be determined. Unfortunately, I think to get back to what we call normal. Until that happens, I think there's going to be a few different things that will happen. I mean, we've already seen this revelation that you can do music from home. You know, artists like Ricky Lee Jones have been doing Facebook concerts, and she says over and over again, my God, if, this is an answer to my prayer. She's like, I get anxiety when I have to pack and I don't want to leave home anymore. And if I can reach my audience from streaming from my house or doing local larger productions, like she's like, I'm happy to do that. Other people want to get out there, so they're inventing different ways to socially distant and do live productions, like the drive-in concerts, like the UK.
Yeah, that was impressive with the 500 independently kind of distant little corrals almost.
Yeah, which some people are like, I've been on the down low wishing for this, like I hate having drunk.
$500 for 2 decks.
Yeah, can you imagine?
In a rail.
Let's get 2,500 people in this massive soccer field, and it's going to be a pretty, intimate little space, but no sweat. You're not going to bump into anything.
Yeah, no one's going to spill their beer on your brand new shoes or barf on you.
I haven't been on that side of the rope in a long time, but
Yeah.
I don't really go out in the crowds too much. But I could see the benefit of that, but I also know that
For certain
most
things.
of the, you're going to go see Metallica or Ozzy or somebody.
That's different.
Part of that mix is being in the
Exactly.
mix, is getting, squeezed in and people
Exactly.
crowd surfing across your head. And
Precisely.
yeah, there's a lot of fun in that.
It's going to work for some people and not others. And also, I think that certain artists that can get away with doing the show with tracks rather than a full band have a better chance of going out, because you'll cut down on the amount of crew you need and the amount of people on stage, the amount of people on a bus, the amount of people in hotels. If because how it is, like when you're on the crew, you have to double up.
Yeah.
But if that's going to become a hazard, then they'd cut back and be able to like bring out a skeleton crew.
Laura,
But
I say we go and move to New Zealand because they're already doing shows.
You say that kind of facetiously, I know, but hats off to those people.
For real, I'm not being.
Well, they just shut down again though, because
Did they?
New Zealand shut down they had a 3-day shutdown because there was a family of 4 that contracted the virus about a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first, I think it was the 102nd or 103rd day of the virus free that they had this family. Now they have to figure out how they got it, because people aren't really traveling. But they, so they put an automatic 3-day shelter in place, stop everything to figure it out. But I also think, like, we were talking about using like the show link, for instance, with the Accent, Shure mic wireless stuff, like that kind of technology is going to help us to not have to have so much contact with the talent that's wearing a belt pack. If you can make all the changes from your control software and not have to change the frequency at the pack, and you can mute the RF so that the battery doesn't get drained while they're in the green room. That's just less contact that you have to have with the talent. That kind of technology, I think, when people sort of figure out what we already have in place, invent what we don't have, to cut down on the use of things that require too many hands on it. Even just the new thing they just came out where you can make any mic wireless and run it with the Accent system.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And
show link. That's a game changer. So you're not running cables. That's going to get us back to work faster, I think. And
you're not wrong. I saw a couple of my friends went out and did the Sturgis thing that just happened, and that was 250,000 people back in Woody's backyard there at Buffalo Chip. And
he went and worked the show?
Chopperkovich and Sean Perlman went out and did,
I
think, Smash Mouth out there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us were sending him like, be safe, buddy, information and little love notes, worried about him. And so he sent back some photos of him disinfecting the stage and, this massive audience. And there's guys out there with the, spray pump disinfectants. And so he tried to make us feel good about it. And they, it was a fly date, so it was a blow and go. Yeah. But I think we're going to see, frankly, it needed to happen. To put that many people together from that many different places to see in about, I want to say,
2 weeks.
Give or take.
Yeah.
What the news has to say
10
about
days.
that. If there's any kind of outbreak, it would be a kind of a good canary in the coal mine, an indicator of what's happening and the potential for us to get out and do what we do as a normal day's work.
Like I say with all these shows, is the more statistics that are formulated and the more analysis that we can get on all these,
And
I think
time.
the time is really going to be the dictator there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, if we do good and we can really trace this back and figure out a successful way to do it, we'll all be employed.
Yeah.
We like that very much. Very much.
Figure
I have
it
a
out.
lot of gear sitting here getting dusty, and I don't like it. Listen, it was a pleasure having you here. You know, I adore
Thank
you.
you, Vince.
Big fan. I really appreciate what you do for us, and Sound Image is, hats off.
It's a mutual feeling.
You're good to us, and we try to be good to you and our other people. We hope to.
You too.
He's
Thank
a
you.
good kid over there.
It's been great
Thanks
to
for
meet
coming
you.
out to our show. Yeah,
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah, you did some good stuff.
Yeah, it's nice to be around people that I can relate to, and we're all passionate about our craft, and it's kind of almost feel like like when you're in high school and after school you go to that one kid's house and everybody just shows up and kicks it. That's kind of what it feels like here.
There's a little bit of a permissive parent vibe here.
Yeah.
Where
Well, I don't mean that, but I just mean, it just reminds me of when, because I have so much free time. We're not stressed out. We're not working, but we're working on something, and,
Yeah.
and we're being productive and not just,
Absolutely.
pissing our time away.
Great conversations.
Yeah,
Yes,
that and
yeah.
and cobwebs do grow.
And supporting
It's
each other.
good to kind of keep your chops fresh and keep bringing in information. So we
And it's-
appreciate that for you.
And it's invaluable to have the support too. I have to acknowledge that, that
It is our pleasure.
you and George and
My brother,
Kyle have
absolutely.
been so supportive of me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
You're very welcome, and let's not forget the good people at Diablo Digital who supply some gear for the training and some of the actual protocol, which is our good friends Brad Maddox and Greg Price. I love those guys. Thanks
Absolutely.
again. It was
You're
really
welcome.
great to have
It's
you.
my
Shaunna
pleasure.
Hall, badass, IATSE 16, A1. We're lucky to have her. I couldn't do this without the help of my team here. We really appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to thank my brother, George Edwards, of Sound Image Productions. He's our general manager. Thank you, brother. And the big dog, the top dog, CEO and really founder of Sound Image Southern California, Dave Shadone. Thank you, Dave,
Thanks,
for
Dave.
giving us the space. We couldn't do it also without the gear that we get. Matter of fact, we're going to change up here. We're going to change over to a different batch of gear for filming. We just keep changing things, and hopefully for the better, with the help of our friends at LSV. I mentioned last week that our good friends at LSV, which is John Rigney and Cameron Brown, had that unfortunate situation with John Rigney dying. One of the co-founders of LSV. That was tragic for us, but they're still behind us. They still support our vision, and we're bringing in a really heavy-duty broadcast system in here, and I hope you guys see the difference. I couldn't do it without my good friend Mike Brown over behind the control console.
Thank you, Mike.
Doing the switching, really doing everything. This side of lighting, which is the purview of Alan Pettibone, our good friend and lighting master,
Thank you,
Captain
Al.
Creative. Thank you, Al.
Look at
You're a
that
badass.
blue light behind me.
Isn't that beautiful?
Truly,
Isn't
I
that
look like I
beautiful?
just ascended from.
It's an angelic thing he's
some
going
higher
for there.
place.
Yeah, thank you, Al. The mothership.
There you go.
Always bring it back to some George Clinton shit. That's just
right.
how it works, man. That's loyalty
Mothership
right there.
connection.
We love loyalty. And of course, for our good friends at slowfiber.com, thank you guys for providing us
Yeah,
custom masks.
I see you got a pocket references up there.
Oh my God! Well, let me finish my Slow Fiber love. But thank you. Yes, I do. The people at Slow Fiber make it so we can still work together with masks. We do the social distancing thing, and it works out really good. Our people in our different shops use their products. If you're interested, reach out to them in all things fabric and notions and sewing, and in our case, COVID-19 masks. We have friends of the show. We didn't have our comments page up today, so I can't say who reached in, but I appreciate all you guys for viewing. But one of our good friends, Charlie Zaricki, we love this guy, good friend of the show, provides us with these little pocket references and our little monkey anti-gig butt. But I got a new batch of them, and if you're interested, you send us your, we got 10 of them to give to friends of the show, and these things get you out of trouble on the regular. I'm telling you, man, it is an incredible.
You want to know knots? You want to know Calvin, bolt size, whatever you want?
Hubbles, I don't care.
You get one.
Yeah,
You earned one.
Oh yeah, no. Let's do this right now. Thank you.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Mike.
Yeah, thank Charlie's rigging, not me.
Thank you, Charlie's
You're
rigging.
The best. We appreciate you. We got Clint Wesley, Noah the Beard Tanner. I mean, just a lot of Paul O'Doul. Really, people, we really appreciate for staying in there with us. This is our 19th episode. Next week, we're having Big Daddy on the show. We're going to bring out Greg Price. Greg Price is from Diablo Digital. He is Ozzy's guy, Black Sabbath's guy. He taught me, he is the man. And it's going to be a hell of a show. We're really lucky to have him. We hope you guys, tune back in. I'm lucky to have my friend Kyle Thomas for helping me out. Seriously, dude. Really.
Always a pleasure, brother.
There's nothing that you don't do. You're the badass. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
And the whole team. We appreciate you, the viewing audience, and we hope to see you back next week, Thursday at 7 p.m. Come hang out with us and have a talk with Greg Price. It's going to be a good show. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a good night.